Hello class, this is Brad Jackson. How can you overcome tonal pessimism? By talking nerdy about the Optimist.
This is a whole new level of nerd.
Safety glasses on.
My calculations are correct.
No, spewing 21 gigawatts!
You're gonna see some serious
Well guys, it's been several weeks since I've seen you last. Life was crazy busy with the holidays. All kinds of crazy things in the family. My wife is pregnant. Anyway, so the big news around our house is my wife's pregnant. We got a third little kid on the way. I'm sorry to not see you so much, but I really enjoyed some time with the family and spent tons of time working on products that you've already been catching small glimpses of. All right, the Optimist. Let's talk about what it is. Well, it's based on a pedal that looks an awful lot like this. It looks like it. Also sounds like it. So, Overdrive 1 is straight up that thing, and it sounds phenomenal. We just did an A/B test real quick, and the Optimist holds its own really well. So, let's talk about why we did it. Well, when we got with Cory, we were trying to figure out a project to do together, and he's really known as a clean guy. That's kind of his thing, like the super compressed clean thing. But man, talking to Cory, I didn't realize how versatile of a cat he is. He does gigs with Gene Simmons. He's played for just everyone under the sun, like tons of really cool stuff. Like, I would never in a million years think that he'd play for a presidential fundraiser with Gene Simmons, but he has. So he's covered a lot of ground in his career, and he needed something, an overdrive platform that was just an all-in-one. So we're just it's whatever you want, Josh. It's fine.
This is the bottom of the glass. Yeah. It got me.
All right, now that Josh is breathing again. Okay, so we're talking about what kind of project to do with Cory. What he needed was an all-in-one project, a product that would be all of his overdrives in one, have MIDI control. We were kicking around ideas for stuff. I said, man, why don't we do a Klon? Klons are really great pedals. They're phenomenal. They sit in a mix really, really well. We'll talk about why they do in just a little bit. But what we wanted to do was, it's a very specific voice of overdrive. It's a really good voice of an overdrive, but it's a specific thing. It's really warm, very mid-focused. I said, why don't we do something? Why don't we have two overdrive circuits and have a juxtaposition of the really warm Klon thing, but with a really transparent, flat overdrive. And he was into that idea. He thought that'd be really cool because that kind of covers a lot of ground. Not only do you have the Klon thing, but you have the flat, transparent drive, but then you can combine them. And harmonically, it gets really fun when you put Overdrive 2, which is a really flat overdrive, into Overdrive 1. Sounds really great, but then we're talking more that, hey, Cory, we've had a lot of really good compliments and a lot of success with our Bloom pedal, which I believe to date is our best-selling pedal of all time. And people seem to really love the EQ on the Bloom because it's really flat. You turn it off and on, you really can't tell that it's there until you actually move the knobs out of their detents. So it's a great EQ, but it's not overbearing, which is the really killer thing about EQs, is that they have to be musical, and not all EQs are musical. That's just, it takes time and effort to get to that point. So I was talking about EQs. I said, what if we tried something like that? He's like, I don't see me doing that. That's just not who I am. It's like, Cory, just trust me. Please trust me. He was really cool and said, okay, I'll listen to it. I mean, the worst I can do is say, no, I don't like it. Well, I whipped this together for him, but actually this is version 2. So he had version 1, which is very few changes from this. But it was the flat overdrive into the Klon, finally the EQ, and he flipped. He thought, man, this is awesome. I've never had an EQ pedal in my life, but I'll never be with that one now because this sounds really great. And I'm so glad to hear that, because so many guys really don't count EQ pedals as cool pedals because they seem very utilitarian, but they're really great harmonic modulators or modifiers. So that is a quick overview over what the Optimist is. We didn't put all the bells and whistles in it that we put in like the Asabi or the Golden Boy or Broken Arrow. We talked about doing that, but we're like, you know what? We've done that a lot, but let's spend all of our effort really dialing in the core sound. So we spent a lot of time dialing in the Klon. I'm not gonna say it's better because that would just be me being very biased, but other people who have heard it, have played it, they think it sounds really good, especially compared to the original. And here's why. it sounds spot on like a Klon, because it is spot on. A Klon's got the same, all the magic components. But one thing it does have that a Klon has never had is an active EQ. We'll play it in a little bit and show you that. But the cool thing about an active EQ that's switchable off and on, it lets you get the vintage thing. It lets you get the vintage Klon circuit, then add to it and make it more modern with an active EQ. That takes a really great pedal, kind of brings it up to date, makes it more controllable for today's style music, and also has MIDI control, so you can handle all that stuff via MIDI. So that's a quick overview of the Optimist. Let's really get into the weeds and this stuff. So this is the Optimist. This is the circuit board. If you notice, it has a little PC board in there. That is actually the OD1 circuit, or the Klon circuit, if you will. It's not modular. Please don't think that it's modular, because I know it looks similar to like what you see in the Asabi or certainly the Fuzz, but this is not modular. The reason I did that is just to cover my tail, because when you have really high gain circuits, like a Klon is actually fairly high gain. You have that in the same enclosure and the same circuit board as the other overdrive, and certainly an EQ. They have the propensity to couple together and cause oscillations and squeals. And if you're like me, you hate that kind of stuff, because it always seems to crop up the worst time of the night. You're trying to rock a huge solo and turn on a distortion into distortion and really go for it, and then it starts squealing. So I hate that kind of stuff. So what I did, I moved the entire Klon circuit onto its own little daughter cards, just to keep it physically isolated from the rest of the world. That worked out really well for us in the Asabi. We did that there because it just needed to be separated from the other overdrive circuit. So it's not modular. Please don't try to stick something in there, because it doesn't work. It's not designed to work that way. But yeah, everything that you see in the Klon circuit is the legit thing. I poured through tons of schematics and did, you know, every little voltage test in the world to make sure everything was spot on, and it is spot on. You can even see those little magical, these little diodes right here. These things are pure magic. In the industry, these are what is known as the PFM diodes. They're really magical, and they make the pedal sound really, really great. So we go to a lot of trouble at the shop to take every single pair of diodes, we soak them in unicorn tears, just to make sure that you have the most boutique tone possible, because you deserve the very best boutique tone possible. You deserve diodes that are washed in unicorn tears.
You have no idea what I had to do to get these.
All right, so being it's one of our newer products, it's got MIDI on it. It seems that whenever we release products now that doesn't have MIDI, people get really mad at us, because I guess we kind of, well, we certainly didn't start that, but we do it a lot, and people kind of expect that from us. So let's talk about what the MIDI does. It's very simple. It turns the overdrive 1 on, it turns the overdrive 2 on, it turns the EQ on. It's really, really simple, but it does all the things you need it to do. We didn't try to go crazy with it and do a whole bunch of diode shifting and level matching. We just want to keep it really about the essence of the circuit, because the circuit doesn't need a lot of help. What it needs is faithful recreation, which we've done that, and God knows I've put in the hours to recreate the good stuff. So I'm super, super proud of it. I have very high standards for the products we design, and I want you to have the very best. All joking aside about the diodes and the mythical components and stuff, there's no mythical components. What there is good design. You take the components you have, get the right ones, of course, and you find out just the right set of values, and you stay faithful to that. That's how good products are made. There's hype and there's educated design. I always lean on the side of educated design, because I don't believe in selling snake oil. I believe in selling products that I'm proud of, and I'm exceptionally proud of the Optimist. I think it's a phenomenal overdrive. Covers tons of ground. I think it will for you too. So give it a try. Hope you like it. I know Cory's crazy about it. We've got a lot of artists that have it in their hands now, and they seem to like it too. So give it a try. I think you'll really enjoy the Optimist. All right, so now we're gonna hear how the Optimist stacks up to the real deal Klon Centaur. Enjoy. All right, so let's check out the Optimist versus the Klon. First, here's my clean sound. Got a G&L Legacy through a 65 amp Soho. No, not good. All right, here's a 63 335 through a twin reverb. Clean sound. Here's the Klon. Here's the Optimist with the same settings. Everything's 12 o'clock on OD1. Sounds like a Klon to me. Let's get the gain up a little bit. We'll go back to the Centaur. Gain about 3 o'clock. I like Klons as more of a higher gain thing. A lot of guys use them as clean boosters, but I think they really, really shine as a pretty heavy overdrive. That's what I love about Klon circuits. They get really high gain, but they don't fall apart and they don't get muddy, which is really, really huge. You still want to hear your notes, which I think is a huge thing. So let's try it on the Optimist. Sounds pretty good to me. Alright, so that's the Klon. Let's check this out. Let's talk about why the Optimist is a little bit different. We talked about the EQ in the video, so let's do what I always do. I always try to like go wildly different with the EQ on something to kind of give you a feel for what it's like, what it can do. So what I've done here is I kick the mids up quite a bit. The mids are centered around 800 to 1000 hertz. Let's put some EQ on that. Notice how the lights for the EQ are all embedded into the little stems, the little knobs for the EQ. So I love that. I know it sounds a little bright, but I always try to think about things in a band context. That's critical. You've got to always think about how your guitar sounds in a mix. With that, that'll stick out really well in a mix. Man, it gets you into like 80s kind of hair metal stuff just because it has so much mid-focus to it. So you can't do all that kind of stuff with a traditional Klon circuit, but you can when you put an active EQ with it. One of my favorite sounds, and I'm going to put everything back at 12 o'clock. The Klon, but I'm going to boost the Klon with the transparent overdrive. I absolutely love this sound. Listen to how the harmonics change. The gain doesn't change that much, but the harmonics just leap out in pretty dramatic ways, I think. So here's OD1. Overdrive 2. It just gets bigger and a little bit more focused and brighter, of course, but it just has so much more energy to it. So let's hear Overdrive 1 by itself. We haven't talked about that yet. Super flat overdrive. Sounds good on just about everything. Guys, thank you so much for watching the Jack Sunday Show. It's good to be back. As always, tip your waitresses. Be nice to people. We'll see you next week. I'm Brad Jackson from Jackson Audio. This has been the Jack Sunday Show.